Hello, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. My name is Igor Stefanovic, and I'm a technical coordinator at the Ethics, Culture and Social Responsibility Department at UNWTO Madrid, World Tourism Organization. So I'm happy today to be able to moderate this panel and this virtual meeting, exploring how the hospitality industry can empower young and disadvantaged people to build a better future. We have an experienced panel of guests and experts from both the public and the private sectors to explore different challenges and opportunities. We are all aware there are too many challenges nowadays, but today we are going to focus on specific and concrete opportunities for young people to succeed within the tourism and hospitality industry. We will also learn about a new training resource that has been created by the Sustainable Hospitality Alliance that is hosting the event today with the support of Ihg Hotels and Resorts, Running Intercontinental, and many other brands. We welcome the audience also to ask any questions during the panel. Please use the chat function if you want to put any question, and we are going to leave these questions for the end of the panel, should the time allows, for a Q&A part. So I'm going to give the floor now to our esteemed panelists to introduce themselves, maybe to share with us whether they have had any interesting personal story of how they entered the tourism and hospitality industry at the first place. That is going to be a useful message also for our young people who are connected today to see how they could also do their own journey. So please, Madhu, Catherine, and Michael, if you could introduce yourselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Igor. I'm Madhu Rajesh. I'm Chief Executive Officer of Sustainable Hospitality Alliance. Sustainable Hospitality Alliance works with 13 hotel member companies currently, and we work across the industry to create tools, resources, and support the industry and every hotel anywhere in the world to make a positive difference to its local communities on our planet and its people.
It's upside down.
Today marks an important day for us because we are launching our youth curriculum. And as we know, the hospitality industry has been a big employer of young people. I myself started my career in the hospitality industry at the grassroots level and have grown. And so like Igor said, today I would like to urge our readers, our listeners, our participants to share your own stories on social media to create awareness of what careers in hospitality, the impact they have on young people and your own journeys. So, I'd really encourage you to go on LinkedIn and Twitter and share your stories if you can. Over to you, Catherine.
Thanks, Madhu, and hi, everyone. My name is Catherine Dalton, and I am Chief Sustainability Officer at Ihg Hotels and Resorts. So for those of you who aren't familiar with us, we have almost 6,000 hotels across 16 brands, from Six Senses and Intercontinental right through to Holiday Inn, Holiday Inn Express, operating across 100 countries. So we're in a really great position and we have a great responsibility in terms of providing careers and jobs to many, many people across the world. For me, I've been at Ihg for almost 20 years. Always on the corporate side. I've spent some time in the hotels from a corporate perspective, but my very first job at the age of 16 was actually working as a waitress in a local pub, which was both terrifying and incredibly exciting at that age. And I learned a huge amount from that around, working with adults, just, how to interact with guests. And so that was a hugely valuable and memorable experience for me that I will never forget. Michael.
Thanks so much, Catherine and Igor and Madhu. Congratulations on the launch of this curriculum. I'm Mike McCabe, and I'm the agency senior advisor for youth at USAID. USAID works around the world in 90 countries, partnering with organizations in the private sector to really advance sustainable solutions. And so that's why we're so interested in the work that's being presented today. I also serve as the Global Industry Council point of contact on partnerships for the hospitality, hotel, tourism industry. My first job was for 4 summers in high school and college. I also worked as a waiter at the Athenaeum Hotel, which surprisingly was one of my favorite jobs I ever had. I actually loved interfacing with so many different people It built my confidence in communication skills, not to mention I learned how to balance 12 plates on a rack as I carried it out. So, you know, learned how to balance many things at once. Let's see, over to
our colleagues from Kenya. I think they're in.
From Kenya, yeah.
Please.
Good afternoon, everyone. Am I audible?
Yes, please.
Hi, I'm just waiting for Judy. She's just stepped out, but my name is Rahul Voidwat. I'm the training manager at the Radisson Blue Hotel and Residence, Nairobi Arboretum. So my hospitality career has spanned almost 12 years. So I initially started off in the operations department. Actually, my first job was, so at the age of 16 in our high school, we went into something called an internship program just to see if we really want to be in the industry that we choose to be in. So my first job was at the age of 16, did an internship at the local Hilton hotel here across food and beverage, housekeeping and front office, and I really loved it. So hence I chose a career in hospitality. So initially from the operations background, so front office, I grew through the ranks. Then training was always my passion through my career. So almost 4 years back, I moved into the L&D role. Worked for various hotels in the Middle East and India and right now in Africa. Really looking forward to engaging with you all and looking for best practices, I guess. Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have another colleague joining you from your company, please, from Radisson?
Yes, but she'll be here shortly.
Okay,
So
thank you very much.
I'll have her.
Thank you very much. So I also have a personal input. I studied geography and tourism management in Bosnia when they first opened this field of study in the country after the war. And I was told by many people, Igor, that's a weak career when it comes to future prospects of your life. So I was really so passionate about tourism and geography, so I studied it. And I've been working in tourism policy making for about 15 years. But I need to say my first job was too posh. I was not, unfortunately, carrying plates. I was working for the peacekeeping mission of the UN after the civil war in Bosnia. And that's how I got in love with the UN system and that I still believe that can do some things, even though public institutions and governments now are under a big scrutiny. So I've been working in tourism policy making for about 15 years. So thank you very much, dear panelists, for your interest and for your personal accounts of your own careers. You know from your own examples, both at the personal level and also when it comes to managing tourism companies and businesses, that tourism is very labor intensive. Young people are a dominant part of the workforce in most of the countries, in both mature and emerging destinations. In many countries, young women make the majority of the tourism workforce, depending on the cultural issues of the region that we are talking about. And hospitality is definitely one of the main entry points, even now. But more than ever before, our industry needs to ensure that no one is left behind in this recovery process of the tourism sector. We know that in COVID, many young people lost their jobs. And many countries we've seen it was mostly young women if compared to the young men who lost their jobs. So now the industry has to step up, the international organizations and the governments to support young people in their skills development. We know that especially marginalized youth was really affected by this whole crisis. A lot of people in rural communities, in indigenous communities, remote regions, young women, migrants, LGBT people that have also experienced different kinds of exclusions and also violence in some countries. We know, according to ILO estimates, that youth employment fell 8.7% in 2020, compared to 3.7% for adults. I'm not talking about the tourism in particular, I'm talking about the general employment. But yesterday, UNWTO released a report with the UN Conference on Trade and Development, specifically focused on the loss of employment in the tourism sector, not exclusively focused on youth, but on employment in the tourism sector. UNESCO has also identified that have been having many negative trends when it comes to education, because the education has been disrupted in many regions of the world, and also training and capacity building. That means putting the young people on the risk to have very weak or poor prospects of career development in future if we don't step up now and offer some facilitation when it comes to skills development. The negative trend is visible both in emerging economies and also the developed ones, according to the OECD. So I would say young people would have the same problems everywhere now, especially in the hospitality and tourism industry. But of course, we need to admit that developed economies have a better buffer and economic backup when it comes to the support schemes than the emerging economies and developing countries. So today we are going to have different questions and answers and also different kinds of questions for the debate that we are going to put up today. So I want to say that UNWTO, my organization, calls for fostering youth leadership and skill matching in the future for youth training, including the most unprivileged found among women, youth with disability, migrants, or victims of exploitation. Youth potential for employment in the hospitality industry remains a huge opportunity, and it's still not untapped because it's usually not qualified or not really offering too many skills or career development prospects when it comes to higher levels, even though it's a very good entry point. So we are talking about win-win for all when we are talking about better training and skills matching in the tourism industry. So I'm going to ask our panelists about different things that have to do with their own experience, both personal one and also their career. We're going to see how the development agencies and governments can collaborate with the private sector to engage young audience in this change that we are going to make in the sector, in this leadership that young people need also to assume with the industry in defining their jobs, in defining the future of the tourism industry. So I'm going to ask our panelists, first about the challenges first. I think we're going to focus on the opportunities, but I think we need to also talk about the challenges before. And I would just ask our colleagues, Michael and Madhu, in their opinion, what are some of the challenges that young people face that prevent them from obtaining jobs, particularly those from restrictive backgrounds? What is your personal experience when it comes to this issue? How do you deal with this issue? Thank you. Michael and Madhu, please, if you can answer the question.
Yeah, so I think back to a few years back when I was working in Panama on a USAID program called Alcance Positivo. And we partnered with the Panamanian Hotel Association, which had a major problem at the time at filling available jobs. So on the one hand, we had high unemployment rates in the country. On the other hand, the hotel hospitality industry couldn't fill all the openings they had. And we were working on a project with youth from low income, high crime areas. And so we had a lot of discussions and planning to figure out kind of how to successfully make these pieces of the puzzle fit over the 3 years of the project. And a few key challenges that kept coming out from the young people side in these communities that they had to overcome. First of all, youth lacked the confidence and soft skills to go for that job, to go out and like be confident to go for a job, and to perhaps do well in communicating during the interview phase. So we developed a state-of-the-art workforce preparedness curriculum that was very hands-on, followed by a 3-month job placement. And I'll never forget when the first hotel came to interview our first cohort of 80 candidates, they took 70 right off the bat. Right off the bat, they took 70 and felt bad for the remaining 10 who then got picked up by the other 2 hotels that came in. But these hotels were eager for young workers who were able to hone some of those basic communication and customer service skills and soft skills. But after a few weeks, we actually saw a higher than expected attrition rate by some of the youth. And so when we asked why they were leaving from these placements, the youth said 2 things. First, the first paycheck they got was smaller than expected. Now that I think is probably something we could all identify with. It's not one that's as easy for us to fix, but we do need to recognize that the alternative sources of income in those communities were more competitive, let's say. The second, they had to deal with a lot of issues that were still going on in their homes, homes that were impacted by violence or communities impacted by violence. So we had to adapt our model to add in more components around mentoring to really help them succeed. And once we did that, the program took off in success. The second barrier that youth expressed a lot was redlining. And I remember how youth would tell me that they had to put the addresses of relatives from nicer neighborhoods. Otherwise, they would never get the interview and they would be rejected based on coming from the troubled community. We know this is illegal in a lot of countries, but it still goes on in many places. So we had to work with companies to understand how most of these youth are even more eager and resilient because they come from challenging backgrounds in communities. So we literally took CEOs and managers from companies into the communities to do a listening session where they were able to talk with kids. And even some of the youth had been like on the edge of entering gangs. They toured these broken buildings and the apartment buildings and had these dialogues. And what was fascinating was at the end of it, to hear these private sector leaders say, wow, if I was in that circumstance, I don't know how I would do as successful as there. But what they talked about more at the end of it was how they recognized this sense of grit that these young people had to be perseverant in their work and made them really good workers in the end. And then the third barrier is just one we talk about a lot, the skills mismatch, where young people have from what they're getting in the schools and what the private sector says they need. So we found that often we need to do some additional foundational education skill building on numeracy and literacy to be tied in along with those soft skills and those vocational hotel skills so that they can take full advantage of the other professional development. And second, getting the private sector to help schools and vocational training institutions really design the new curriculum in a way that responds to the real opportunities and competencies that are needed. We've been doing that in Honduras, El Salvador, Nicaragua, and those private sector partnerships with the public sector or other training institutions has made a world of difference in helping overcome barriers, especially for disadvantaged youth. Madhu?
Thank you so much. Madhu, please, what is your opinion about this?
Thank you, Igor and Mike, for a couple of minutes. So I didn't hear all of what Mike said, so I'm sorry if I repeat some of the points. But I think from my experience, working in some of the local communities as our youth program has, a couple of things that we've seen there is, first of all, if you put yourself in the shoes of a young person coming from a disadvantaged background, and thinking about a career in a five-star hotel or even a restaurant on the high street, whatever that might be, it is just not a place that they're used to, and therefore it's very hard for them to see themselves actually imagining that as their workplace. And I think that's the first barrier, which sort of makes young people a little bit reluctant in dreaming that is actually possible for them. And that's the first hurdle to overcome. And we've seen where we've created peer role models from the community where somebody's gone and had a career in a restaurant, in a hotel, whatever that might be, it becomes easier for other people to follow suit. The second thing we've seen is that very often we are talking about disadvantaged young people who have very little skills or education, formal education, and therefore they're not really prepared for a career in hospitality because it can be quite daunting. You walk into the lobby of a five-star hotel, it's grand, and the back office is still different and technical, but it's an overall daunting experience. So they need to be prepared for it, and those can be very, very basic things like, how do you interact with people? How do you greet someone? Basic language skills, basic hygiene skills, basic vocabulary that you use in a hotel. So, one of the young people that we asked who dropped out of a program one day, we asked for reasons why they dropped out. And they said, well, I was working in the kitchen and the chef told me to go to the walk-in and get some parsley. And this young person did not know what a walk-in was and did not know what parsley was, and therefore lost confidence and did not turn up for work the other day, leaving the chef wondering what happened, and the young person without confidence. So those are some of the basic things that you need to think about, empathize what it means to be a young person who's coming into a hotel or in a restaurant, and what are they going to need to really make that transition. And that can sometimes be a barrier because the employer doesn't know and the young person doesn't know, and there's a mismatch. The third thing I would say, and this is also from my own experience coming from a time a few decades ago, but still exists in some parts of society, is, when you're a girl, talking about a career in hospitality, that's not very often considered to be the most respectable career choice. And that creates barriers in itself. And we see that in some of our own programming, even now in Sri Lanka and other parts of the world, where you've got to promote it that a hotel or hospitality is still a respectable place for a girl or a woman to work, and that creates barriers. There are many other barriers like that. Those are the key ones I wanted to share. But earlier this year, actually, the Aspen Institute, in collaboration with Conrad Hilton Foundation, published a report on youth livelihoods, youth employment in the hospitality industry. And that really summarizes many barriers that exist, but those were the key ones that I wanted to share on this occasion.
Thank you very much. It's interesting what our panelists have just underlined, that is self-confidence. And it's very difficult for people to be born with self-confidence. And sometimes mistakenly, we even think that people who are privileged or well-heeled economically need to be necessarily self-confident. And I don't think we should make this mistake with anybody. And with people who come with underprivileged communities, as we said, sometimes they think they're made to think by their society they don't deserve to be there. So people are not marginalized by their own capacities, but by their own economic and social systems that surround them. So it's not about their traits and their capacity, it's more about the society, how sees the people. Thank you very much. So now I think we should jump to some of the opportunities, and maybe we can ask our panelists about the hospitality industry and why is it well placed to hire young and disadvantaged people from within their local communities. Why would we see tourism as a well-placed sector as an entry point for young people to start working? So we haven't heard Catherine yet. Maybe Catherine, if you could say a few things, and then Madhu and Michael, if you have anything to add that you haven't answered in the previous question, because I think we made a mix of challenges and opportunities. So please, up to you. Catherine, please.
Great.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Igor. So I think that the first thing for me is, we know that the hospitality industry is a major employer and therefore driver of economic growth. So over the past 5 years, 1 in 4 new jobs globally were created by the sector. So before, hotels really are at the heart of the communities that they operate in. And the people that work in them are really what brings to life a guest stay. And I think also the fact that hotels can offer roles both directly on property, as well as helping to drive those greater opportunities through local suppliers and businesses as part of that wider societal impact as well. And I think the role of hotels and the importance of them within the supply chain was only heightened during the pandemic last year. And also as well, which I'll go into later, I think the other thing is just the variety of roles that are available, variety of entry-level roles in particular to suit all ranges of abilities, aspirations. I just think it's a fantastic industry.
Thank you very much, Catherine. Madhu, Michael, do you have anything to add to this?
Madhu?
Do you have anything to add to Catherine's answer?
Sure.
Yeah, I'll come in. Sorry, my internet's dipping in and out. Yes, I think Catherine's very succinctly covered the macro conditions for the hospitality industry and how they provide the opportunities, and it is an industry that will continue to grow and continue to provide those opportunities. The fact that, for me, a hotel is present in local communities, so it's a global industry, but it has a very local footprint that then allows every hotel the opportunity to engage with its local communities and create those job opportunities where the communities are. That's quite unique about this industry. Equally, I'll say from my own experience, having started in the hospitality industry,
Madhu, I think you're frozen.
Igor,
need formal qualifications. It sort of is an industry where you can learn on the job, your ability to respond to situations, your ability to move from one department to the other and learn on an ongoing basis is what sees you grow. And I've seen this happen with many different hotels and many different geographies. Equally, in our own youth program that we have at the Alliance, for the young people that we worked with, and bring to managerial cadres. So, that is what makes this industry so special. The fact that there are a number of opportunities, and also the fact that, you start in one.
We are losing you again, Madhu. Maybe, Madhu, you can switch off your camera, please. Maybe it would be easier for you to speak without interceptions of the internet connection.
Igor,
yes, can you please finish? Yes, Michael, please, and then Madhu will reconnect.
Yeah, so just while she reestablishes contact, I think something Catherine said earlier, that the size of the industry is important because the ILO and World Bank have, said that we need to generate 5 million new jobs a month, every month for the next 10 years, just to absorb the new job entrants into the world job market. And there's very few industries that can play that role as well as the hotel, hospitality, tourism industry, where you have 330 million jobs, and not accounting for the broad supply chain that goes into that. So, that's a massive opportunity, I think, as Madhu said, on the local and the national economic level. For me, the most important, compelling part around that is, hiring young people, and especially those from marginalized or disadvantaged backgrounds, because of their adaptability into the various on-ramps that Madhu was talking about. It's showing how their adaptability to new systems, to bringing that energy into the hospitality environment, understanding the dynamics of the communities where they're working is important to the hotels. And so those components really help. I think it also helps in particular with some groups such as young people with disabilities, where we've started to see a greater role of the hotel hospitality sector in partnering with persons with disabilities as job opportunities. So 5 years ago, as part of a co-creation exercise in Indonesia that resulted in a USAID programming around inclusive economic opportunities, including in the tourism sector. And through this, two of our initiatives and partners are one called Synergy and one called Progressive, work to basically increase youth skills, training, and employment opportunities for vulnerable youth with disabilities, including in that hotel and hospitality industry. And that was so important of how we were able to work with the business sector, the government training providers, the youth support and disability networks to come together through these POCSIs or action groups that would allow for a really good skills match between young people with disabilities and that orange and green economy in textiles and in retail and in the entrepreneurship and tourism industry. So I think some of those models are really good. As we said, the variety of on-ramps are, what makes this industry so powerful to work as a partner with groups that are trying to support young people that perhaps have not had all the opportunities of the best education in other parts of the country.
And switch to our colleagues from Kenya, Judy and Rahul. As Radisson Blu Hotel and Residence Nairobi has been part of the Sustainable Hospitality Alliance that is our host today of their youth employment program supporting young people with disabilities. For example, myself, I'm a person with can you tell us about this experience and any practical advice you can share to support other hotels to encourage more inclusive hiring? Judy and Rahul, could you please tell us what is your personal and career experience with these issues? Thank you.
Yes, so as a training manager, I'm the one point of contact for all internships in the hotel, and really making sure that the young people get opportunities. We actually have memorandum of understanding with top hotel schools here, but as well as that, we've tied up with Cheshire Disability Services Kenya, through whom we've managed to take 3 people who are differently abled into our system. It was a great experience for all of us across departments. For us as well, it was the first time. And it was basically initially a learning curve for us, what works, what doesn't work. I think the most important thing is to ensure that they're onboarded properly. First of all, that the entire hotel is onboarded properly on what is expected, what could be the possible challenges, and what could be done to address them. The second one is, of course, giving. Hello.
Hello.
Can you hear us?
Can you hear us? Yeah, they can.
Okay. So the most important thing is to ensure that the hotel is briefed. I mean, all the departments are briefed on what is expected. So we managed to get 3 people, so 1 in kitchen and 2 in front office. And actually, we've converted 1 into a permanent position. So we had a position that became vacant, and looking at the performance of this person, we've actually taken them onto our roles. And that has really, shown us as an example to the rest of course, the rest of the hotel industry, as well as Cheshire Disability Services. So, and the best part is, most of the hotel chains have a very good CSR program. So this is actually incorporated into that and giving opportunities to young people. RHG seriously believes in diversity and inclusion, and this plays a big part into our program. So onboarding, and then, making sure that they're all handheld, at least for the first, I guess, few weeks or so. And then, of course, picking up what worked, what didn't work, and actually getting us prepared for the next batch. So
thank you. Can I ask Judy, maybe, if you have contact with civil society organizations that work with people with disabilities when you develop the programs at Radisson in Nairobi, or you deal directly with people with disabilities? How do you find the participants of your program? How do you locate these people?
Okay, to start with, we had a brief with Sustainable Hospitality Alliance. Gracious was our contact person. He then introduced us to Cheshire Disability Services Kenya. So they had a sort of orientation where the partners were able to then meet the youth who were looking for employment opportunities. So we engaged with them on a one-on-one before they started their soft skills training, which took about 1 month. And then from about 16th of March, they were deployed to us. So what I can say is that, we were able to journey with them through first meeting each other, sort of a meet and greet, breaking the ice, introducing the hospitality industry, as most of them have no experience in hospitality. They were then prepared by going through the soft skills training, which towards the end, we were able to also attend and get to learn where, who's interested in joining hospitality. Is there anybody who has dropped out during this soft skills training part? Luckily, nobody had dropped out. And from the beginning, we were able to identify those who had a natural passion for hospitality. With Radisson, we hire for attitude, not skills. So that was also our focus, because skills can be taught on the job. So based on the interviews and the interactions we had with the youth, and through Cheshire Disability Services, which also luckily, physically, they're next to the hotel, because we're at Arboretum and they're just next to State House. So we were able to then have a meeting with them even before they joined for a familiarization tour. And the staff that we had, the youth that we had interviewed and decided we are taking on board, the 3, that's Marsha, who was a guest services in the front. There was Monica, who's very interested in the kitchen, and she's still with us at pastry. And there's Manuel, who was at the front of house.
I love the thing that you put names and faces to the people that you employ, that you don't consider them just as numbers or within your stuff. And,
no, in fact,
resources. I love the way that
they came in, and they just sort of fit in, like they had been with us for a while. So I think because we had started that relationship with them before, then we crossed over to come into the hotel, familiarization. We then had a sit down with all the heads of departments and supervisors. So everybody was able to introduce their departments. And then, we had discussions like, would you be interested in going to housekeeping? What is your area of interest? Each youth sent us a profile beforehand, just telling us more about themselves, their interests, etc. So by the time now we kicked off the 2 months internship training, at least we can say we had been able to form a relationship prior. So I think for us, it made everything easier. And then in terms of interacting with our staff also, they're very open people. And within a very short time, you could see confidence change. You know, they'll come in the morning, just say hi to us, give us an update of what's going on, report to their workstation. So they just became a natural part of our team. So for us, because it was the first time we had partnered in such a program, you know, we didn't know what to sort of expect. Do we need to train the entire team on how to deal with people who are differently abled? You know, what do they need a special diet? You know, things like those. So those are some of the insecurities we had in the beginning. But through DEO, we got in touch with Cheshire, and our point of contact for Cheshire is George, who we have spoken to, you know, like throughout. You know, like for one of the ladies we had in the kitchen, Monica was interested in pastry. She's not able to hear. So, you know, we asked in the beginning, does she come with an interpreter? You know, how do we talk to her? So, but somehow, you know, we were able to communicate. You know, she would send messages on the phone or write something down. And with her, we were just instructed, you know, as long as you give her clear menus, etc. She's very detailed. She'll be able to follow through. And even when Monica finished her 2-month program, she decided, look, I want to extend for a further 1 month. So through Cheshire, again, we said, you know, she's still interested and she feels she can learn more. Can we have this extension? Then Marsha decided at the end of her program, she wants to do something else. So we bid her farewell, and Manuel now joined the front office team. So he's still
thank you very much. So I think it's very good career prospects. And I think what Judy is really putting ahead of us is the fact that diversity when it comes to human beings brings talents and better service provision at the hotels. It's what really clients want at the end, and clients sometimes want to pay the marginal difference of those hotels that respect diversity in comparison to those that don't. So I think this is a very interesting point that Judy and Rahul made on their project from Kenya. And now I'm going to talk about skills training. And of course, today, the main point of our conversation is about gaining skills. So I would maybe ask Michael, who is working for American government development agency, if I can put it that way, and characterize how USAID is structured. How do you see the role of public-private cooperation and partnerships to tackle the issue of youth unemployment? How do you work with different stakeholders and make it happen, and not only have meetings with equal participation of different stakeholders? How do you make things happen really when it comes to all these kind of models of cooperation and have concrete outcomes? Please, Michael.
Igor, thanks so much. That question is really a challenging one because, you know, there is a lot of different power difference between stakeholders in the local community and system. And I think, as Judy was saying, you know, it is, how do we look at what's going on in that locality, whether you're in Nairobi or you're in, you know, in Bangkok or wherever, and say, where are the different roles that people can come together to play to really scale up opportunities and have a high quality, you know, tourism sector there that's recognized and draws people in. Is around sustainability. So that means, you know, we've never seen a program go to scale that doesn't either, you know, depend on the public sector driving it or the private sector driving it. I mean, civil society organizations are super important for playing that role of kind of releasing the energy in the innovation system, but to go to scale, it really requires these effective partnerships. And often it's between both public and private. Public on the, you know, as we develop the opportunities to update their TVET systems and vocational training, private sector to ensure that there's a fair opportunity to get young people who might be coming from communities that weren't traditionally considered into that. So what we've been doing at USAID is we have been working with our missions over the past couple of years to really scale up our private sector engagement strategy. And so we now have what are called industry leads on all the 150 different industries. And working together, what we're doing is really doing a comprehensive designation of, you know, the networks out there that we could work with, the comprehensive onboarding and training of our own USAID staff to understand how do you work effectively and what are we hearing from the private sector on this? And then developing those networks with practitioners and experts such as those who are on, you know, this call today. And finally, how do we co-finance? Sometimes it's aligning our investments, and sometimes it's combining our investments. Sometimes, you know, the private sector says, hey, too complex to put our money in with a donor agency, but we want to align what we're doing together. So we look at a lot of different ways we could do that. And so partnering in the, hotel hospitality industry, there's a couple of things that we've learned how to be successful. One, around the curriculum development and tailoring it to meet real competencies for the real available jobs. So USAID has had success in helping broker that space and support seed capital and facilitate public industry councils and improve curriculum design, kind of like we're seeing with this new curriculum, or Hilton did with Passport to Success and other partners. Second, we work to really support partnerships around internships and work-based learning opportunities. We know that the hotels and the private sector, they can provide those opportunities, but they want the wraparound support that we can sometimes strengthen in the civil society or the public sector around that. And finally, we look to partner on different pathways to final employment. So sometimes that takes the form of a My First Jobs program, apprenticeship program, or something that leads into it. In Jordan, USAID partnered with Chemonics on a project that we called Building Economic Sustainability Through Tourism. And in that, we set up a series of innovation clusters to leverage government and hospitality sector businesses around this hub for cutting edge coursework on hospitality. And Jordan, the tourism and hotels are the largest private sector employer there. And so what we tried to do through that was to tap into the potential and enable Jordan to really build out that competitive tourist destination through, focusing on bringing on more, bringing workers up to the skill level that was needed there, changing some of the perception even of tourism and its reputation, and overcoming some of the stigmas from different communities about being part of that workforce. What did that mean to different groups? And then really working with communities to enhance that existing tourism product, whether it was within the hotel or the cultural activities around the hospitality industry. And it really helped us leverage, millions of dollars of private sector engagement, 20,000 new jobs, bringing, for example, safe food handling was a major focus of that to really address some of these issues. So we were able to work with new job entrants, with our hotel partners, and with the government to really improve the overall quality of the tourism and hotel experience there. So that's just
Thank you, Michael. I think what you said, the quality experience is what really the clients want and companies need to provide, and diversity needs to be main and crucial pillar of this service quality. Now, I would ask maybe our partners from the private sector, one last question. If you can please take 1 minute each to answer so we could go to the presentation of the curriculum, colleagues. So please, our colleagues from the private sector, how do we really make sure that the labor inclusion succeeds? How do you deal with the skills matching? How does the industry negotiate with the potential employees? Is it done through some organizations, through some government agencies, through the civil society? How do you do the skills matching really between the private sector and future employees who come from youth? Please, if I could have Madhu, Catherine, Judy, and Rahul answer 1 minute each, please. Thank you. Catherine, please, if you can start, yes.
Great. I mean, we are working not just with the Alliance and developing this amazing curriculum that's launching today, but also globally with other organizations, such as the American Hotel Lodging Association in the US and UK Hospitality, really to make that linkage as you were talking about. Also something that I think it's that combination of those soft and technical skills that's so important here. To prepare these people for the workplace. And we've seen that to be really integral through our own early careers program, which we call Ihg Academy. Now, this is a global network of educational and community organizations that partner with our hotels and officers in their communities. So this is all about developing those skills in those local people through training and mentoring. And we've actually delivered that to almost 32,000 people over the last few years. But I also think there's a big place for for companies such as mine to be working with NGO partners. So we've done some great work with Junior Achievement Worldwide, developing a program with them, helping more than 750 young people gain skills and experience. And then another fantastic organisation in the UK is Change 100, which is a program of paid internships and mentoring for students with disabilities. So I think that those experiences, those partnerships just demonstrate the importance of collaboration to really support those with those additional barriers to get into hospitality for the first time.
Thank you very much. Madhu, if you can also please answer.
Sure. I think I agree with everything that Mike and Catherine have said so far. So I think, in terms of public-private partnerships, those are absolutely critical in looking at the skills gap for young people in a holistic way, and also at a global level at scale. So absolutely, I agree with the importance of that. I think what Catherine has said around local partnerships with local NGOs is extremely important, because if there's anything we've learned from listening to what Judy was saying in terms of support that young people need, you do need a local implementing partner that can be that bridge between young people as well as with employers, both to prepare young people for jobs, and our soft skills curriculum plays a role in that, but also for employer sensitization and help employers navigate what it takes to provide that support to young people that come from these backgrounds. And we've seen that through the pilots with generally disadvantaged people, but also those with specific multiple disadvantages, like people with disabilities. We piloted it with survivors of sex trafficking and others. So, I think the role of the local not-for-profit partner is absolutely critical. So I would just emphasize those points. And I think the other thing I would say is, in terms of organizations like ours, where we have access to companies at a global level, we bring, know-how of the industry that is reflected in the curriculum, because we've been able to speak with multiple brands and say, what are you really looking for? What do the skills requirements boil down to? What are the basic areas where young people are most likely to get jobs, and then what is the quickest way in which we prepare them for those? So I think that access that we have to the brains in the industry is very important. And what we've seen is we've done this in our industry. We found through the pilots that the skills are transferable in other industries as well. So I would certainly say when we are looking at youth unemployment, hospitality has a very big role to play. But I would also encourage other industries to step up and engage as well, because we are going to be able to come out of this pandemic stronger if we are working in a collaborative way. So if anyone thinks that our curriculum applies to their industry, it's a free, open resource, and I would encourage people to look at it and use it as well.
Thank you very much. You said an interesting thing about tourism, that's the value chain that has so many different components, and sometimes you have industries that have no relation with tourism and travel, but are part of the value chain because tourism is so diverse. So maybe if I know that Judy and Rahul already said about the issue of people leaving the program and going to another job, but I guess that was already people that were given skills through your program. So I just wanted to ask you maybe the main challenges that you had in your skill matching, just 1 minute each, please, when it comes to your program. Thank you. Judy and Rahul, please.
So what's really helped us out is Sustainable Hospitality has put us in touch with Cheshire Disability Services, which is focused on a global alliance of almost, it was founded by the member of Leonard Cheshire. So it networks with almost 40 local care centers and those who come from underprivileged backgrounds. So what we've done mostly is actually focus on the fundamental skill set that's required, which is communication and how to come across in certain situations, situation handling. We want to train for people, not just for hospitality. In case they decide to go somewhere else, these skills will be transferable, is what we are trying to do. So what we do is we try to match needs with the skill set. So for example, in front office, we try to work on communication, which is the major part in the department. So what do you say in certain situations? How do you handle certain situations? Which would be the same. I mean, could even help them in their personal life, not only in the professional life. And like Judy said, we hire for passion and attitude. We always believe that skills can be taught over time. And we also
thank you so much. I'm sorry, Judy and Rahul, for interrupting you, but we need to give 10 minutes to Madhu to present the curriculum. I'm so sorry because it has to be launched now. It has to be launched today. Thank you, and please be in touch. Please, Madhu and Catherine. Catherine will start with the presentation of the curriculum, and then Madhu will finish. Thank you. Please, Catherine, back to you.
Thank you. I'll be very brief because I want Madhu to be able to actually talk about the curriculum itself. But this is just, IHG. We wanted to fund this curriculum. We're so passionate about showcasing how rewarding a career in hospitality can be, and how we can invest in the next generation by providing those skills and training to those furthest from employment. And what's so exciting about this curriculum is that it's being created in an open source format. So it really eases the burden and that cost of program creation on those NGOs and community partners, which really will enable them to focus on the program delivery side and actually supporting those beneficiaries. So, these soft and technical skills that Madhu will talk about will really help to prepare those young people for the workplace. And as I said, we know that that's what's so very, very important. This is really exciting. And for me, what's been so exciting is that this is just a fantastic example of industry collaboration, where they're coming together to provide content and insight to really bring this resource to life. Madhu.
Thank you. Madhu, we don't hear you.
Sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes, please.
Well, thank you, Catherine. And, we're really grateful to IHG for having supported this curriculum. This was one of our biggest barriers to scale when we started revisioning the program a couple of years back, and having created it as an open source resource, which I know IHG was very keen to do, is absolutely useful, because some of the other resources out there are not available for use for free. So I think, hopefully this will be a great resource for many NGOs to use in their programming. So we've got a few slides, and I'll just talk you through them. So basically, for Sustainable Hospitality Alliance, we have a background in running our youth program, which goes back about 25 odd years. The youth program first started in Bangkok and was up until very recently known as the Youth Career Initiative. And it started in Bangkok as an initiative for one of the local hotels to engage with the local communities and give young people a job. And we've operated this program over the years in more than 30 odd cities. And what that's really helped us understand through having worked with 200 hotels in those 30 odd cities is really look at the dynamics of different markets, work out where the similarities, where the common denominators are, but also look at what the variations are, what some of the challenges have been, and what are some of the successes and key learnings have been. And when we looked at our impact over the years, and we reached 6,000 young people when we started working on the curriculum, we were really coming at it from the point of, well, how do we scale these learnings and good practices? Because 6,000 young people over 25 years working across 200 hotels isn't that great and does not reflect the power of the hospitality industry to engage with young people. So we've systematically gone about through this curriculum addressing the various barriers to scale and come up with a product that lends itself to it. We have experience of working with local not-for-profits, so we took their feedback on board. We consulted with young people as we were looking at what their requirements were, but also working with hotel teams, both at the headquarter level as well as the individual hotel level, to understand what their requirements were. And it is this sort of analysis that fed into the creation of the curriculum. Sorry, can you guys hear me?
Yes, please go on.
Sorry, I don't know what's happened, but my screen's gone. So when we look at some of the common strands in terms of the skills, we looked at resources that were currently being used by hospitality brands in their own training programs. And that's where we worked very closely with our member companies to look at different resources that they had available. Indian Hotels Company Limited, ICL, they provided us with secondment in addition to complementing support provided by the financial support provided by Ihg Foundation to really look at mapping resources and coming up with, a sort of a glossary of skills that this curriculum would need to cater with. And then we worked with educational specialists to develop the curriculum itself. We are also grateful to Inclusion Works and the UK government that supported this program through its Inclusive Futures initiative to look at adapting the curriculum for people with disabilities. And we worked with funders like the Global Fund to End Modern Slavery to pilot
Madhu, I think we broke. Okay, good.
So a number of people have really come together to contribute to the piloting of the curriculum as well as the development of the curriculum as you see today. If you look at what exactly this curriculum contains, the curriculum is basically a soft skills resource that provides about 100+ hours of soft skills training in 3 key areas, which are around life skills that include basic communication skills, basic digital skills, financial literacy skills, work readiness skills, and interview skills. These are very critical regardless of where you want to work in, and that's what makes it quite transferable in the hospitality industry and beyond. It looks at English language for hospitality, which is the basic vocabulary that you would expect to hear in any hospitality setting, so that that helps with young people get the confidence they need to work in the industry. And it also looks at introducing young people to hospitality itself with some transferable knowledge, where you look at workplace safety, first aid, understanding customers, and that's all that has helped with the sort of the transferability of the skills, because it really is, while some elements of it is customized to hospitality, it is the bulk of it is foundational skills that would help you get a job anywhere. So young people through this curriculum work with the not-for-profit partners for this 100+ hours of training. And what we've seen in the pilots is that once they've completed the training, most of them prefer to go into hospitality for a 2-month on-the-job technical skills training program, where they're working with, 3 specific departments, largely looking at, housekeeping, food and beverage production and service, could be in other departments, but those seem to be the most common ones where young people go into. And we've also seen some people being absorbed by industries where the skills are transferable. We've piloted the curriculum so far in India, Kenya, and Nigeria, and found them to be quite successful. In fact, I admit that the results are limited because we piloted it at a small scale, but generally it's almost a 99%, 100% retention rate. The beauty of this curriculum is it will be available through our website, free of charge for not-for-profit partners. So, we're already working with certain not-for-profit partners in geographies where we do direct implementation, but actually, if you're an INGO or any not-for-profit organization working anywhere in the world, or any corporate working with partners like Catherine was mentioning about Ihg, please do get in touch. The curriculum is a free resource and we'll make it available to you to integrate in your own programming. And likewise for the US government and other government funders, if you want to work with certain not-for-profit partners using our curriculum as an entry-level resource, it's there for people to use. So there really is no reason why people should not be able to access this resource. And that's where I'd like to end up, thanking stakeholders who've come on the journey with us and encouraging new partners to use it as widely and as frequently as possible.
Thank you very much, Madhu. Thank you, Catherine. I also wish to thank our partners from USAID, Michael and Judy, Rahul from Kenya, and of course to our organizer for putting us together today to also present this curriculum and to have this conversation. So this curriculum is a perfect example of really useful instruments for the industry. For example, this is a very good thing for vocational training to enter the industry, to be part of the hospitality industry and work on the spot. And for example, at UNWTO, we have UNWTO Online Academy that is more for academic education, that is also an interesting, let's say, menu of resources. So I think today we opened so many Pandora's boxes, but also came up with some solutions. And I think the good thing is we got many questions, and we also got some comments on the presentation. So that means there's a lot of interest. I'm so sorry we won't be able to answer them today because we have to stick to 1 hour time slot. But I encourage the audience that has approached us maybe to contact the organizers directly in case they can correspond with them and answer their queries directly as a follow-up to this seminar. And I thank you very much to all of you for your attention today and for great contributions. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.